We will now move to the vice ministers, starting with Armenia, then going to Canada, Cuba, and Mexico. Armenia. And colleagues, we've basically run out of time, so please be as quick as possible. Armenia.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chair. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to express my sincere gratitude to the government of Japan for hosting this virtual meeting despite these extraordinary circumstances that we find ourselves in. This is a powerful reminder that the planet has and what the planet has and for humanity should we fail to meet the challenge of emergency. Coronavirus pandemic has shaken our livelihoods and our economies to the core. Yet, in the spirit of perseverance and resilience, we must find ways to double on the opportunities these types of fundamental trials bring forward. In the spirit of this perseverance, we must overcome the challenge of pandemic, not only stronger commitments to tackling climate change, but also with commitments to green recovery. Climate change is not a forecast. My country is living today. Armenia has registered a 1.3 degrees Celsius increase in temperatures, coupled with 9% decrease in precipitation. Already has caused millions in economic losses due to droughts and unprecedented weather patterns. Despite these existing risks, looming challenges, Armenia's government has designated for its progressive and bold climate agenda. Being a country that is not a fossil fuel producer, Armenia's transition to carbon neutrality is not simply a feel-good political endeavor, but one that is at the core of country's energy independence, energy security, and resilient and green growth. This is why we will continue to call our partner and organizations to mobilize at scale climate finance, because climate finance mobilization should not be viewed as a cost, but rather a long-term, economically efficient, socially fair, and environmentally sound investment for the resilient development for both. In this spirit, Armenian government designed, among others, a socioeconomic relief package this spring aimed at paying communities across the country to plant willow riparian zones. As a result, in the span of just a few weeks, Armenia planted 2 million and provided socioeconomic hundreds of beneficiaries across the country. This is but one example of how we can set the stage for resilient and green growth. And for Armenia, it is directly forestation, doubling our forest cover and investments in renewable energy and energy efficiency. But in times like these, when fiscal spaces are ever more constrained, innovative approach to green finance mobilization is crucial. This is why deploying innovative instruments to scale up international climate resilience finance, because currently only limited options are available for developing countries. Armenia has developed a debt for climate innovative climate swap, financial swap, which focuses primarily on bilateral and public debt with potential scalability to other countries. This debt for climate public bilateral debt swap, first of all, gives the opportunity to relieve of its debt burden. Secondly, to redirect those funds to timely and efficient fulfillment of commitments taken under given NDCs. And lastly, allows for the developed countries to fulfill their commitments under the Paris Agreement. In conclusion, I want to stress that countries below have external debt, and at the same time, all countries are running out of time to address the challenge of climate change. We need to prioritize time and type of commitments as we pledge to swapping today's debt for the resilient future of the planet. And in summary, allow me to reflect on the delegation of Azerbaijan. I would like to, on the statement made by a delegation of Azerbaijan, I would like to recall the Republic of Artsakh has gained its legal framework as Azerbaijan did. Therefore, if Azerbaijan is sincerely concerned about the climate and environmental issues and would like to find solutions to those problems, they should engage in genuine talks with the government of Artsakh instead of abusing each and every forum with these false accusations. In this regard, I would like to call the readiness of the government of Artsakh on numerous occasions to cooperate on such issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, we are eating into the next session, so I will be very brutal from here on in when you've exceeded your time limit, because we really need to wrap up. The Vice Minister of Environment and Climate Change of Canada, Peter, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Selwin. Bonjour. Hello, distinguished guests. It's un plaisir pour moi avec vous aujourd'hui. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you today. I'd like to start off by first adding my thanks and those of all Canadians to Minister Koizumi for the kind invitation and, of course, for hosting the meeting today. Many of you have already pointed out 2020 has been a very difficult year for our countries, for our citizens, and for our families. And one silver lining that was pointed out by Malta is this historic opportunity to build a better future, and one that is stronger, greener, and more resilient. In Canada and around the world, we've really demonstrated what we can do when we all come together to fight a common cause. And I'm truly hopeful that we can use these lessons towards our collective work in fighting climate change. And that's really what Japan's online platform allows us to do, and we're very grateful for that. So let me quickly share one example of what Canada's efforts to restart our economy while reducing our emissions. Earlier this year, we created an emergency program, like many of you, to support our citizens, our families, but of course our small businesses and our larger businesses. However, and much in line with what was announced by Minister Koizumi, companies are only eligible for these support funds if they publish annual climate disclosure reports, which detail how their future operations will support environmental sustainability as well as helping Canada meet its national climate goals. So this initiative alone has helped our economy recover and will help reduce emissions in the private sector in the months as in years ahead. So it's innovative thinking like that idea, as well as so many of the actions and ideas that you've shared as well during this call today, that will help us through this pandemic and into a stronger, more sustainable and resilient future. And Canada, as always, looks forward to working with all of you to make that a reality. My thanks again, and I wish you all a wonderful day. Merci.
Thank you so much, Peter. I now give the floor to the Vice Minister of Cuba.
Thank you, Chair. Distinguished participants, we welcome the opportunity to be part of this event and appreciate the initiative of the government of Japan and the Secretariat of the UNFCCC. April 2020 marked the third anniversary of the approval of the Cuban State Plan for Facing Climate Change. We were evaluating our role at this stage when the country faced the urgency to develop response measures to the pandemic caused by COVID-19. It had a clear impact on our activities. As we partially reestablish our work, it seems useful to consider similarities between the climate change crisis and the one generated by COVID-19. Both phenomena are global crises associated with the production and consumption models of current societies. Therefore, our response measures require rethinking current ways of life. Obviously, both crises needed vigorous state intervention, but also international cooperation and coordinated responses at the global level. Both climate change and COVID-19 shows the importance of science, and they require scientific research and timely information to guide public policies. The priority of tackling climate change has not diminished, and we must adapt our work to the current circumstances. In our case, limitation of means of implementation is our main obstacle, persistently aggravated by the United States blockade. Still, even under the current circumstances, there's a lot we can do. This time can be useful to go deeper into climate change research, to identify gaps in our implementation measures, and to strengthen the role of information and communication technologies. The global response to COVID-19 shows that we can change our behavior and implement far-reaching measures in a short time. It is now time to align these efforts with the climate change facing goals. A crisis can be either a danger and an opportunity. We are slowly beginning to overcome this threat. Let's now embrace the opportunity. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Armando, and for your very encouraging words on embracing the opportunity of the COVID-19 crisis. I now give the floor to the Vice Minister of Mexico, followed by Norway, and then Slovakia.
Thank you very much, honorable ministers and esteemed colleagues. Good day to everyone. Mexico commends the government of Japan and the UNFCCC Secretariat for this exceptional effort. Without a doubt, this event is the evidence that multilateralism is still the only effective path forward in fighting global threats such as climate change. Responding to COVID-19 pandemic has been one of the major challenges that humanity has faced in the modern times. Although it has a global reach, its impacts are unequally felt across the globe and disproportionately affect those who are already most vulnerable. The different levels of response capacity that each government has and the significant inequalities that are often found also within countries require different levels and types of approaches to the recovery in order to ensure that nobody is left behind. This pandemic is just a foreshadowing of the many challenges that are to come in the climate change and the massive loss of biodiversity. We must therefore strive for a green recovery, and to do that, we must first understand that what means in practice. This platform will be crucial in this regard, and I am honored to add Mexico to the many voices advocating for a green recovery. As we have presented in the inputs that are now being showcased in the platform, we have adopted significant commitments to further reduce greenhouse gases emission, especially from deforestation and soil degradation through low carbon and inclusive development practices. We continue to promote climate action with a biocultural, territorial, gender, and human rights approach. There are several barriers to overcome, particularly for developing countries, to engage in green recovery activities in the short term, including reduced institutional capacity and severe budgetary constraint. Therefore, resource mobilization must be greater and faster than ever to keep the world on track to reach the Paris Agreement goal. Mexico is ready to partner with all of you in this endeavor, and I thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Vice Minister, and we're really dependent on the leadership of Mexico. I now give the floor to the Vice Minister of Environment of Norway.
Thank you to Minister Korsumi and Executive Secretary Espinosa for convening this important meeting and launching the online platform for Redesign 2020. Recovery from this crisis provides the opportunity to build more sustainable economies. Our response can help transform markets at the necessary speed and scale. Still, as we probably all have experienced by now, it is not an easy task. Increasing ambition under the Paris Agreement is the starting point. The time for that is now, in 2020. Enhanced NDCs are key drivers to kickstart climate action and national development plans. Norway has already strengthened our NDC for 2030. Now we wait for the large economies to do the same. Responding to COVID-19 in Norway, we have focused especially on policies that can create new jobs and help develop green technology at the same time. We have made available approximately 360 million euros for green transition projects, from researching to piloting, such as green shipping, renewable energy, low emission processes, and a circular economy. To reach the long-term Paris goals, we need to shift the large financial flows of the world, both private and public. When we all start to take climate risk into account when we make financial decisions, we will be able to price these risks accurately. We all need to make sure that the investment decisions that we make are sustainable. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Minister. And I now give the floor to the distinguished Vice Minister of Slovakia.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, firstly, I would like to thank the government of Japan for the initiative to launch this online platform. It's crucially important to see and learn how to use the post-COVID stimulus in shaping a more sustainable, resilient, and competitive economy for the future. Climate crisis and COVID crisis has something common. They both are global, they both are unpredictable, and they both have their skeptics. In fighting one, we can and have to fight the other as well. We are convinced that the recovery has to reflect two biggest challenges, namely climate change and the loss of biodiversity. This can only be achieved through close cooperation among all institutions and finding solutions and opportunities. All sectoral policies must be set up in such a way as to ensure not only declarative, but in particular, real compliance with basic environmental principles and real transformation towards climate-neutral future. No environmentally harmful subsidies should be promoted, and all policies should be subject to rigorous environmental impact assessment, in particular with respect to climate change and biodiversity. The highest priority is to ensure that low-carbon transformation has broad public support, is socially just, and contributes to economic growth while maintaining the competitiveness. In Slovakia, the situation is copying world trends. More than half of our inhabitants lead an urban lifestyle. The high carbon footprint that our cities create is the result of inappropriate spatial planning, and use of the urban environment. And the world together has to set and achieve its ambition high enough to safeguard climate resilient future for our descendants. Finally, I would like to inform you that Minister of Environment of the Slovak Republic, Jan Budaj, addresses video message to this conference, which should be available through this platform. His words are the best evidence of the Slovakian approach to build a climate-neutral, environmentally friendly, fair and social world based on the transition to climate neutrality, combating biodiversity loss and ensuring sustainability.
Thank you so much. I now give the floor to the distinguished Vice Minister of Turkey, followed by France. And I understand that the Minister of Pakistan.
Distinguished ministers, I would like to express my gratitude to the Minister of Environment of Japan and the Executive Secretary of UNFCCC, Ms. Espinosa, for their kind invitation. We believe that this online platform will contribute to share good practices among countries and non-governmental organizations. COVID-19 and climate change are both threat to human health, and new, healthier, nature-based approach to the novel sectors are indispensable. Joint efforts for these threats helps us to build safe and resilient future for human beings. Turkey has taken significant steps for tackling with these issues. Over the past decade, our renewable energy installed capacity increased from 19,000 to 45,000 megawatts. In August, we opened the first integrated solar panel and manufacturing facility of Europe and the Middle East. We also address environment and urbanization activities in a holistic manner. We are planning our cities with the vision of horizontal agriculture, architecture with a less urban density, make cities more resilient. By 2023, we are planning to build 81 million square meter open white green areas, as we call nation's garden. Regarding the adaptation actions, we declared the Black Sea region climate change action plan last year. This study is also conducted to other geographical regions. Besides, we are updating Turkey's national climate change strategy and national climate change action plan. By these action plans, we aim to enforce a force against climate change. Finally, I would like to thank the Japanese government for establishing this online platform. I wish all of you and your family safe and healthy days. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister. I now give the floor to the Vice Minister of France, State Secretary of Biodiversity. France, we don't seem to have our French colleague on the line. I understand that the Minister of Environment of Pakistan is back. Minister?
Thank you very much. Yes, I would like to first of all thank the host for convening this very important dialogue on future climate ambition, and would like to state that Pakistan has realized in the COVID era that we need to rebalance our equation with nature, and that has to start with climate mitigation. During the COVID era, we announced what was called the green stimulus, and it was based basically on nature-based solutions that we could do, which would not only mitigate climate change, but also provide us with green jobs in a time of lockdown, and at the same time provide an avenue for nature protection. So this included our big project for planting 10 billion trees. It included a protected area initiative, which increased our number of national parks in Pakistan by 25% during the COVID era. But at the same time, both of these initiatives provided a lot of jobs. We created 84,000 jobs for people to go out in nature and protect nature, mitigate climate change, and at the same time also fight during the COVID era. So I think this equation is very important for us in the future also. And on the energy side, we announced our first renewable energy target, and we are aiming to go towards clean energy 60% by 2025. This includes 30% through hydro and 30% through other renewable energy sources, which includes wind and solar. And we announced recently our 1,200 megawatts of our first wind channel project, which is also part of this initiative. At the same time, on the transport side, we have announced the EV policy and have a very ambitious target for converting 30% of our vehicles towards EV by 2030. During the COVID era, we also announced a fuel shift from Euro 2 to Euro 5, which was one big jump, and it also helps in climate mitigation. So all these steps are in line with Pakistan's commitment to the Paris Agreement and also towards a higher ambition in our NDC as we move forward towards a reformed NDC in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Minister. We have our final two speakers, the Vice Minister of France, as well as the Vice Minister, the Chief Negotiator from Saudi Arabia, my very good friend Khalid. France, first. The Vice Minister of France. Are you on? I don't see France. Khalid, Saudi Arabia, the Vice Minister of Saudi Arabia. And I understand that the Brazilian Vice Minister would also like to make a very quick intervention after Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia, Khalid, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Selwin. It's good to see you. And let me also extend thanks to our Japanese G20 Troika for organizing this online platform. I'm pleased to report that the G20 is working together to confront this common crisis and develop coordinated responses to ensure sustainable recoveries from the pandemic. And an extra virtual leaders meeting on the 26th of March has taken place for the G20 leaders, and they pledged to protect human life, restore global economic stability, and lay out solid foundations for strong, sustainable, balanced, and inclusive growth. Even before the crisis, the Saudi presidency was focused on realizing the opportunities of the 21st century for all. Our presidency year has been structured on 3 pillars: empowering people, safeguarding the planet, and shaping a new frontier. This agenda has never been more important in ensuring sustainable and resilient recoveries from the pandemic. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is applying the circular carbon economy approach to address the sustainable recovery efforts. The circular carbon economy applies the concept of circular economy, which is reduce, reuse, recycle, and adds to it a remove to be compliant with the Paris Agreement. To the challenge of managing greenhouse gas emissions with the goal of restoring a healthy balance to our relationship with carbon. The circular carbon economy approach are assessment of both emissions and material flows, as well as their energy, economic, and environmental impact on products, sectors, and a whole economy basis. So I want to close by stressing that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is committed to working together with all G20 members and indeed all stakeholders to advance sustainable and resilient recoveries. We believe that voluntary cooperation and flexible frameworks like the CCE have an important role to play. Thank you.
Khalid, thank you so much, and always a pleasure to see you, my friend. I now give the floor to our final speaker, the Vice Minister of Brazil, who's a late entrant, but nevertheless, it's always crucial to hear the voice of Brazil.
Thank you very much, dear hosts, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Minister Ricardo Salles, I would like to convey our special regards to Mr. Koizumi for the initiative and for his everlasting efforts to build harmonious and effective global solutions to climate change. On the world effort to build a carbon neutral and greener economy, we would like to convey that as important as our innovation, creativity, and technology development, so is the sharing of knowledge and best practices already in place. Brazil, the country with the highest rate of renewable and clean energy among medium and large countries in the world, began producing and adopting biofuels in transportation almost 100 years ago. As a byproduct of that process, we have biomass, which has been utilized as a source of electric power generation for over 3 decades. We have produced the greatest technological breakthroughs in agriculture in 10,000 years. No drilling, green coverage, successive crops, and genetics development that present extraordinary yields in the very poor soil, in the production of food, energy, fibers, and environmental services. A recent study reported by the World Economic Forum has demonstrated that these technologies can hold between 45 to 65 gigatons of carbon equivalent in the soil. These examples are circular economy as its core. As for the fundamental services that tropical forests deliver to the world, Brazil is moving aggressively in building public policies that take into account the most important factor in changing the economic principles behind deforestation and afforestation dynamics, and that is the peoples that keep forests conserved. They do an extraordinary job at providing these services to the global society, and that job needs to be remunerated by those who consume these services. We count with the international community to make that dynamics change happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Vice Minister. And colleagues, we've exhausted this speakers list. Let me apologize to all of you for failing miserably to keep time, but it was very encouraging for all of us to hear close to 50 ministers and vice ministers from every region of the world expressing their very strong support for a green and sustainable recovery from the COVID-19 crisis. A recovery that connects recovery spending and investment to ambitious climate action, and as many of you have stated, provides us with an opportunity to structurally transform the global economy and ensure greater equality and a carbon neutral future. Many ministers, in fact, all ministers, identified specific policies and measures that your governments are undertaking in many key sectors, energy, transport, buildings, and nature, which not only deliver economic growth and create jobs, but deliver significant emission reductions and help us to strengthen our resilience to the impacts of climate change. Many of you further indicated that the COVID crisis will not derail your plans to submit more ambitious and enhanced NDCs this year and in the lead up to COP26. In fact, many of you firmly indicated that your recovery plans and measures will be aligned with the work that you're currently undertaking in your countries to prepare and submit your enhanced NDCs. And finally, all of you stressed the need for international solidarity and cooperation. From Luxembourg to Egypt, across developed and developing country divide, there was strong support for increased international cooperation and solidarity, delivery of the means of implementation, delivery of commitments on finance, technology, and capacity building. And finally, let me thank Minister Kwazumi, Patricia Espinosa, for your very strong leadership in putting this event together. And for me, it was an extremely successful event. There is this global consensus around a green and sustainable recovery. There's strong commitment to carbon neutrality, and this augurs well for success at COP26. So thank you so much, Minister.
Thank you very much, Selwin and Excellencies. I really appreciate the contributions from so many ministers and representatives. I think this session demonstrated the beauty of multilateralism, diversity, and inclusiveness. I found it very helpful to compare situations and challenges that different parts of the world are facing. I was enlightened to learn about creative solutions and ongoing efforts that are turning the challenge of the pandemic into opportunities to redesign our society to be more sustainable.